Hi, this is Dr. Sam Osmanagich. I'm at the northeastern tip of Sardinia in Italy. Now today we have a real special situation here as far as the megalithic structures. This is a unique place in the world, and today I'd like to start with our friend, one of my co-hosts of the visit here in Sardinia. His name is Megalith. Now this place is intriguing, starting with its name. It's called Giant's Tomb. Giants, the plural. Many giants are supposed to be buried here in the oral tradition. In Italian, of course, Tumba di Giganti. The name of the place, Codo Vecchio, and the closest town is Arzacena, yeah, here in Sardinia. So today is November 10th. The time is almost noon. The weather is cloudy, and the temperature 14 degrees Celsius. The visibility is very good. Now, the first measurements I did was about the negative ions, negative ionization. Very important to call a place the healing place. Now, we are here surrounded by the forest in the beautiful natural ambient. We can see the vineyards on our side, and you would expect that the concentration of negative ions is between 500 and 1500, and that's almost what we got. We got the measurements between 1000 and 2000, with the average being 1500. 1500 is an excellent level of negative ions. Still not healing, but very good for our body. Now the positive ions is a little bit less, from 800 to 15 or 1800, so it's about 1400. So we have a little bit more negative ions than positive, beneficial for our body, so they can do the cleanup from the microbes, from the viruses, bacteria, and so on. Nuclear radiation, it is 37 CPM, which is below the minimum allowed. It's not a very calm place, so it seems that the structure itself does not really protect from the natural radioactivity, but it seems that we don't have natural radioactivity in a higher concentrations anyway. When it comes to the electromagnetic radiations, about EM smog, electromagnetism, which is bad for us, technical radiation, it's a 0. So nothing bad as far as the EM smog here. Now life energy, that's probably the most intriguing measurements. Using experimental life measurement machine, I noticed that on the scale from 0 to 100, where humans are from 55 to 95, this particular stone here, this stone slab, is at 40. Now 40 is amazing a level because for example, the grass, the soil is about 10%. So having 40 here, meaning it's excellent place to give you some additional charge, the orgone energy or prana or chi in Eastern traditions. So I would say that that is the main element that's telling me that this place was originally built for the living communities. Now, magnetic field, it's the average values, 44 to 52 nanotesla. Of course, the regular scale, anywhere from 20 to 70 is normal, it's average, so we are exactly in the middle of this scale. Ultrasound, 19 to 21 kilohertz, but no any special ultrasound activities, no peaks, meaning that the place itself does not generate or amplify certain very specific frequencies. As you know, bars and pyramids, 28 kilohertz frequency, so here it's very calm when it comes to the ultrasound. Almost exactly the same situation with the infrasound, anywhere from 0 to 30 hertz, but we don't have periods of no signals, no activities, meaning this place was not originally made for some deep relaxation or meditation. So we do have certain activities here, so people are doing their processions, but in a nice, calm way. New energy vision camera, which is upgraded version from the PIP camera developed by our late friend, Dr. Harry Osfield from the UK, is showing that the first row of this semicircular structure is a very bright, light green color. Again, meaning it has nothing to do with some heavy, dark red colors, which should be associated with the tomb's activities. So obviously, the first intention from the builders had something to do with some light activities, with some alive activities. The next thing, orientation. Orientation of this particular stone is east-west. East-west, east, the life is getting born. The new energies are coming. East-west, west behind us, mature activities, wisdom, and so on. Again, it is telling me that orientation to the east is important because it has something to do with the newborn life. Now, during the visit, I did my focused meditation, and these are the answers that really confirm what I was able to measure. Officially, this place had two phases. The first one, 1800 BC, or 3800 before present, and the second one about 1600 BC. So the first one is before Nurages, before this period, which people call Nuragic civilization, even though we have no clue what those people call themselves. And the second one, they locate exactly the time and the Nuragic civilization starting their development. However, this is not what I'm finding here. Instead of two phases, like the conventional science is saying, I can see 4 phases of construction. The first phase were a huge dolmen. This is what is behind us. Dolmen, as you know in archaeology, is the combination of the vertical blocks and horizontal tabletops. So this is a rather complex dolmen that we have here. We know that the dolmen start as simple as 2 posts and 1 tabletop. Here we had a series of them, probably 6 or 7 of them. So this is more a scenario of Siberian or Dutch dolmens, which means that instead of for one person, this was more like for the multi-persons dolmen, probably some types of the very active meditations while people were getting the clarity in their minds and making decisions important for their society, for their community. So that was the phase 1, which predates all known civilizations here in the island of Sicily. The second phase came with this semicircular structure. Now, we learned about this good orientation. Now, the major, some people even call it stela. This is not stela because we don't see any symbols, any signs. But this major megalith here is about 4 tons, a little bit over 4 tons in mass. And again, it was about the life, it was about certain living activity. So these were the first 2 phases, and they have nothing to do with the later Nuragic civilizations. The phase number 3 came when people started using the structure behind me as tomb. So what they did little reconstruction, and this is where they buried their leaders of their communities. And even the 4th phase had a very similar function. So the 3rd and the 4th phase were the ones who were able to produce probably some skeletons or some bones. And I heard that even recently some of those bones were discovered here. So shortly, this structure still needs scientific explanation, and what I just did, I think this is something in the right direction. It will help us to understand people who lived on the island, who were obviously able to manipulate with the huge quantities of material. Here we have some of the major blocks. They are all multi-ton blocks. Behind us also. Of course, the original structure was probably much bigger than what we have now, because we could see a lot of loose stones, laying around. So more mysteries from this island of Sardinia. Dr. Sam Osmanagich, November 2019. And now we are facing an amazing phenomenon of the Nuragi. Nuragi, which belongs to the Nuragic civilization. What are the Nuragi? Nuragi are most impressive conical structures. They are megalithic structures. They are built from the dry walls, meaning no mortar and no cement. But obviously the builders knew the static very well. When it comes to the size, we can really witness that we have an impressive size. Now, in this particular case, I've counted this tower had about 1,500 cubic meter of material. Which material? Granite material. Now, I have been checking several of these granite blocks, and even though they are irregular in size, we don't see, except for a couple of lintels, rectangular or square pieces. They are reaching about 8 tons. Now, 8 tons, these are megaliths. You had to have technology to move them. So this was not a primitive society, but very advanced society that had advanced social organization. They had transportation means, and of course they would make a master plan before they would start constructing those structures. Of course, with the time, we could see many cultural layers. People were using it for different purposes. Originally, it was not a fortification, and this is something that you can hear from the guides at the sites. Secondly, it was not made for rather special social activities like production, manufacturing, and similar. It was not. So this was not original purpose. As a matter of fact, through the series of energy measurements, we will find out what was the original purpose of this very interesting phenomenon. So, November 10th, time 12:40 p.m., weather was cloudy, the temperature was still about 14 degrees, visibility was good. Very impressive measurements in the area of the negative ionization. As we know, negative ions, that's a free electrical charge, which helps to clear the atmosphere from the dust and the pollen, which helps to raise the level of oxygen in our bodies, and of course to remove microbes, viruses, bacteria, etc. from our body, meaning they have very beneficial effects. Now, the usual values in our homes, 50 to 100 negative ions per cubic centimeters, in the cities about 200, in the villages about 500. Well, at this particular place, we had values that were reaching 5,000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. However, the average was about 4,000. Now, 4,000 is a healing level. As far as the positive ions, which are not so good for our body, they make us sleepy, we have values anywhere from 1,300 to 3,500, which gives us the average of 2,700. 2,700 is much less than negative ions, meaning we have some extra negative charge in the atmosphere. So this place definitely was used as one of the purposes for healing. The next one, nuclear radiations, everything below 50 ppm is good. It is below the minimum allowed, and here we have values of 18 to 19 ppm, meaning this was also a very beneficial place, a quiet place when it comes to radioactivity. Now, electromagnetic radiations, the EM smog, the bad electromagnetism, technical radiations, they are all absent. Again, very quiet and very good place as far as the healing aspect. When it comes to life energy, again, amazing results on the scale from 0 to 100, it is 40. Now, you take it to, let's say, the grass, to the fields, the valleys, it is about 10. Here it is 40. So the ancient builders knew the power of the shape and the power of the material. No poisonous gases, no CO, no. Now, magnetic field, it is at the average values 46 to 51 nanotesla. The scale is usually from 20 to 70, so 46 to 51 is in the middle of the scale. Ultrasound is very quiet, except for the one that we could expect, 19 to 21 kilohertz. Everything is very, very, very quiet. Infrasound, now we don't have periods of no signal, but we have stable values from 0 to 20 hertz. 20 is actually the average, meaning that this place was used for some activities that required that we are kind of awakened. So we are not talking so much about the meditations, about deep relaxations, but let's say meetings, people discussing different issues and so on. Now, cardinal points. Even though this is a conically shaped structure, the entrance is exactly on a north-south direction. South, this is the time of the day when our sun is exactly above us. It is strongest. It is the symbol for the warmth, for the life, for the love, and so on. The conical shape of Nuragi tells us that the ancient knew that this is one of the three most powerful geometrical shapes when it comes to the energy. The conical shape simply is focusing the energy, it's amplifying the energy. The other two are spherical and pyramidal, four-sided pyramid. There's a reason why we have all over the planet the pyramids, the tumuli, spheres, or in some cases kivas, like in the case of Anasazis, kivas were the spiritual chambers. And what we have here, we have the same thing. Around this Nuragi, we have many circular shaped structures, because they knew that if you want to have a good energy in a room, in a chamber, you don't make something with the straight lines, square rooms or rectangular rooms. This is what we do today because we don't know. But you make it in a circular shape. And this is exactly what we have here and some other places on the planet. Now, during my focus meditation, the first information I received was that the builders knew properties of the granite. Granite, high content of quartz crystal. When you have so many granite blocks on granite bedrock, you have piezoelectrical effect. You have the transformation of the energy. So they knew how to play with different energy forms. So, in all, I would say this is very impressive example of Nuragi structures. And of course, if you go back, the claims that these structures are 3,700 years old or 3,500 years old, maybe, but my opinion, whenever we have such a huge megaliths involved, which means the social organization and the developed transportation means and the knowledge about the energies, probably the original builders, for their time frame, we would need to go a little bit back in time, and this is the time frame of 5,000 to 8,000 years. Everything that came later, probably they could not understand completely the energy properties of the place, and they would use it for the habitation, to stay here, to defend themselves from the enemies, and so on. So my first experience with the Nuragi, amazing structure, many elements are present here that tells me that they were spiritually very advanced. finally we have a beautiful weather. It's November of 2019. Now, this is an amazing place. Another one on this amazing island. This is what's called Sacred Well. And it is in the place called Santa Cristina. The nearest town is Latino in central Sardinia. This is a major site and a unique site. Today is November 11th, 2019. The time is about 11:30. It's partly cloudy. Visibility is very good. Temperature is about 14 degrees. Now, we've done a series of measurements here of the energy properties, and also I've been checking the structure itself. The structure shows two distinctive construction styles. The entrance to the water well and the water well itself shows very advanced craftsmanship. Somebody was able to make a beautiful flat and straight sides, but also they were using square, rectangular blocks and circular blocks. And I would say so far this is the best example of such advanced craftsmanship when it comes to the circular cutting that they made. The way they connected those blocks, it is again without the binding material. It shows me that they knew the stability and how to achieve it. Now, when we come to the stairwell here, we have 26 stairs that take us to the bottom of the well. Now, we have also 11 stairs that makes the ceiling here. 11 is a very important number. This is the prime number. The prime numbers, like number 7, 11, 13, and so on, they were part of sacred geometry, elements of sacred geometry. And the stairway that I'm standing on right now is 13 prime number times 2. Also inside we have 11 stairs that goes up to the ceiling. So it seems that they knew powers of elements of sacred geometry. But when it comes to the shapes, here we can clearly see a triangular shape. And then we can see the conical shape. And then we can see the circular shape. Those three shapes, triangular, circular, and conical, are the most powerful geometrical shapes when it comes to the energies. The ancients obviously knew that. When we add two more that we can see here, square shape and rectangular shape, those 5 shapes combined can make any geometrical shape. So obviously they knew the power of sacred geometry. Now let's go to the energy measurements. I've measured the concentration level of negative ions. It is at a very good level of 2000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. However, the concentration of less beneficial positive ions is also 2000, which tells me that the first purpose was not a healing purpose of this place. Next, the nuclear radiation is at only 13 ppm, meaning very quiet place, no disturbance from the underground as far as the radioactivity. The bad electromagnetism, EM smog, is not present. So this is the ideal place to have certain serenity. When it comes to the life energy, on the scale from 0 to 100, it is 30%. A reminder, humans start at 55% and goes all the way to 100. So having 30%, meaning this location is very alive. Magnetic field, it is at the expected level, basically in the middle of the levels from 20 to 17, exactly from 41 to 53. Not so stable, so we have a little magnetic disturbance here. But probably the most amazing measurements were in the area of the ultrasound. Ultrasound is something that we cannot hear. Now, I measured 18 kilohertz, which is a little bit above what we can hear. 18 kilohertz, but within this frequency, very strong signal. Infrasound, it's an average of 20 hertz, meaning this is not quiet location which is ideal to relax or to meditate. 20 hertz is telling us that this is ideal place for certain activities. Now, new energy vision camera, the upgraded version of PIP camera, is showing the combination of light green, light energies, and the dark energies, heavy energies, dark red energies. And this is something that we should expect in this conical tower, which is very dark. But thanks to the opening on the top, thanks to the moving water, the well itself, which is about 2.5 meters in radius, is extremely light, extremely positive energies, which brings us to the conclusion that walking through the elements of sacred geometry, meeting with the water, even though surrounded by the dark energy, we are coming to the source, to the well. We are coming to the water, which is the source of life. So most probable purpose of this complex here was the purification process. So we have the water, it would be interesting to analyze this water. We have the light, we have the elements of sacred geometry. The orientation of the entrance is southeast, northwest, which tells me that this did not go for the winter or summer solstice, but for the equinoxes, the spring equinox and fall equinox. So, water, source of life, astronomical features and power of sacred geometry. The intriguing thing is that in several places, beginning at the end, we are finding these polygonal blocks. Here we can clearly see 6 sides. Now this is the type of constructions which can be met all around the planet. Easter Island, Peru, Mexico, Egypt, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, many other countries. And this was the knowledge that was last used during the last megalithic era, which was between 5,000 and 8,000 years ago. It was really nicely done. So even though these are not megalithic blocks, we do not have blocks more than 1,000 kilos. It was so nicely cut, and thanks to the slope, the inner slope, they knew how to build very stable structure. Unlike Mayan civilization, which had cobbled roof, and the way they were building, they were basically moving each following blocks a little bit on inside. They were doing actually the opposite thing. Here we can see they are moved on outside, but thanks to the inclination, they are getting beautiful and very stable roof here that is a part of the construction. Now, when it comes to the mass of the whole construction, the water well itself, it's about 257 tons. When we add the outer circle, it is about 88 meters in circumference, and inner circle And here we did have a structure which is gone by now, and when we add what is not visible to the naked human eyes, the whole complex was about 1,000 tons. But we have to have in mind that most possibly this structure was made first, and what we have in surrounding area came later. So it seems to me that on the island, the inhabitants that were very skilled when it comes to the construction, architecture, astronomy, sacred geometry, spirituality, healing and purification process, they had different structures at different parts of the island. Amazing and intriguing.
Diciamo così, diciamo così che non sapendo cosa sono iscritte, se saranno la verticale da fuori, per capire la zona perché.
Behind me is one of the Nuragi. Nuragi phenomenon is characteristic only for this island. Now, officially we have between 7,000 and 8,500 conical towers like this one here. Most probably, original number was between 10,000 and 20,000, if not more. As we can see, even in this case, which is completely uncovered, we still have some vegetation hanging on the walls. Now, Nuragi, when it comes to the etymology of the word, it can something to do with Nuro, on this island, stone, or even Nur, from both Assyrian and Proto-Basques, meaning stone. So obviously we do have stone phenomena. When somebody built thousands and thousands of them, if not tens of thousands, it had to be a very good reason. In this particular case, in central Sardinia, what the archaeologists are saying, the first structure in later on this village was this conically shaped object. This was the first. So there was not a village first, people accumulating wealth and then being able to build these structures, but the structure came first. Let's take a look. We have basalt stone, energetically potent. Sometimes it's granite, again energetically potent. We can see very regular conical shape. Those who are in the construction business, they know how difficult it is to make such a perfect conical shape that we have the inclination that slowly getting smaller and smaller, so eventually it finishes in one stone. The entrance to the Nuragi is from the east. This is the perfect east. So here we have direction east-west. When you enter after 3 steps, you get the little chamber which is perfectly oriented to the north, but more importantly is the spiral staircase that starts from the southern direction. So we have cardinal points. Somebody had a good knowledge of the sides of the world. Once you enter to the central chamber, you have 3 more smaller chambers, and their orientation is northeast, southwest, and southeast. So we have both astronomical features present here: the movement of the sun during the summer and winter solstice, and the movement of the sun during the fall and spring equinox. In the case of the Mayan civilization in Central America, they had similar towers, conical in shape also, and the way they would lay out their windows and doors was exactly to follow the movement of the sun, the lunar movement, and the position of certain star constellation. So the first feature, astronomical, a calendar. The second one, the conical shape, very powerful energy shape. And then we have spiral, which probably imitates the movement of the energy, because in such structures that's exactly how the energy moves, in spiral fashion. When you have on one island tens of thousands structures like this, before the settlements, obviously they were energy related. It seems by using the power of sacred geometry and this geometrical shape and standing on energy potent places, they were amplifying the underground sources of energy. However, today our mother planet is much weaker, so the energy coming from the underground is much less than before. So I would say the first purpose of Nuragi was energy related. What we can hear from Italian archaeologists, historians, and anthropologists is actually the shame for the science. They want to convince us that these were the places with the chiefdom where the leaders or rulers of societies lived. We don't have proof for that. Why would somebody build a single megalithic structure in very particular shape, and then at the beginning no settlements around? Build it as the fortification, as they say, again, does not make sense. In the later period, this structure was surrounded by a smaller circular structure. Very possible people lived in those, but again, we don't see reason for the fortification. If you want to fortify, to protect the area, then you build a huge wall around, because if you are able to build structures up to 25 meters, obviously you had means to build a fortified place. So the second idea of Italian historians, it was a fortification, again, is wrong. And the third one claimed that the members of societies were inside in those small chambers during certain manufacturing or warehousing or similar activities. Yes, but thousands of years after this was originally built. So, big mistake, and a lot of work for the Italian experts to try to understand these structures, which were primarily energy related. Nuragi Losa of Abasanta. This is a major conical structure so far. Some of the blocks at the base are between 5 and 10 tons. Now this one is different. It is much more elaborate than the others. Instead of one conical tower, here we have 3 side towers, making it conical but with 3 sides. Let's go inside. Now here we have actually double entrance. One lintel above my head and the other one behind me. Now these are multi-ton lintels, like tabletops. However, in some cases lintels are much bigger than all other stones that are built here. Here this is a huge structure. Some blocks 2, 3, 5, even 10 tons. Therefore lintels do not have their usual function to give the structural stability, because such a huge weight is giving a lot of stability, keeping the structure very compact. Here, this is northeast southwest, unlike some other Nuragi. And here we have actually complex of 4 chambers. The central chamber, and here is the usually conically shaped structure with the 12 meters in outside diameter. Bigger chamber inside. The spiral staircase starts from here. In a spiral fashion, going all the way to the top, hitting another chamber on its way to the top, and there was another one on the very top. And here, beautiful craftsmanship, huge blocks in a very neat order, making this beautiful diameter and the ceiling, which is closed. What was the purpose of these little chambers? Hard to say. Once we go in one of those side passageways, we come to one of the big chambers below the tower. Today the roof is missing, but still I decided to do my measurements. When it comes to ultrasound, infrasound, the values are as expected. When it comes to the bad electromagnetism, there is none. When it comes to the concentration of negative ions, it's as usually rather high, 3000 negative ions per cubic centimeter. This is beneficial level for human health already. This was not the main purpose. The most exciting results were with the experimental life meter, which measures the level of human energy, the energy of the space, the energy of the ambient. In Eastern traditions called prana or chi. William Reich called it orgone energy or organic energy. Now, 0 to 100 scale, the places outside with the grass about 10%, and here when we touch the structure it reaches unbelievable level of 55%. 55% is where the humans start. The humans start from 55 to 100%. The structure here, which is supposed to be dead, is at 55%, meaning this structure is alive. So now we are coming closer to decipher the mystery of Nuragi phenomena here on the island of Sardinia. They were building them for the energy purposes at the time when our mother planet was much stronger. They were in a way alive, energetically alive. The energy was flowing through those staircases in a spiral fashion, and here giving more elements, making it with 3 sides in triangular fashion. We are getting much stronger energy machine than simple conical towers. Interestingly enough, they were using sometimes 2 sides, sometimes 3 sides, sometimes 4, and sometimes 5. So it seems that they were playing the number of sides, adding to the intensity of the energy flow. Very intriguing phenomenon here in Sardinia. I'm enjoying my trip. This is Nuragi in the place called Santa Antine. It is in the Sassari province, in the northwestern part of Sardinia. Amazing country, amazing Nuragi. Most of the Nuragi were built with rather irregular stones. Now here we have different scenario. Most of them have been shaped and then brought to this area, and this huge structure has been built. So far, this is the most complex and the most elaborate Nuragi. It is a 3-sided Nuragi, triangular in shape, with the outer conical structures, towers. Now, as you can see, the dress stones follow each other. They're all rectangular and they are all of different sizes. A beautiful lintel here, and another one above my head. We're coming to this amazing place where many entrances meet. As you can see, the West Tower, one of them. By the way, we do have very nice orientation, east-west and north-south. Lintel over there, another one over here, another one over there. For example, this lintel, 2 meters by 1 by 1, it is about 4.5 tons in mass. Another one, and 2 of them over here. So we have very stable structures here. I have estimated that close to 700 tons have been used in order to build this structure. Now, when ancient Romans were conquering the area in Mediterranean back 2100 years ago, they considered all communities and all nations barbarians. And the same goes for the people in Sardinia. Now, when they met such a beautiful and very complex structures, they would call them magistra barbarias, meaning the masters of barbaric civilization. And indeed, with such huge knowledge in construction and architecture, they were masters of their work. Unfortunately, ancient Romans usually left nothing but the genocide and cultural side behind them, wanted to present themselves as the only developed civilization. Now here we can see in this stone that they were wrong. Even though the structure is half destroyed today, half of this central conical tower is missing, half of the walls are missing, and we can see the traces of someone trying to burn the place down. still what's been left is really magnificent. Today I've done just a few energy measurements, and the most impressive and almost unbelievable one was with this instrument. This instrument is called life energy meter, which shows the level of the life energy or the prana, the chi energy. Usually when you have natural ambient, you have grass, you have soil, it's about 10 on the scale from 0 to 100. And we were able to see that on some Nuragi places it was reaching 20, even 30. On one place it was 40, which is coming rather close to the living bodies, the living humans. Now here, on several places, we have measured 60, 65, even close to 70. Some people have energy level of 50 or 55, meaning the structure is surpassing the living bodies of humans. What does that mean? It means that this structure is alive. So, the idea that this was a fortification is almost laughable. The idea that people lived here is also wrong. The idea that this was a temple, the place to sacrifice, wrong. The idea that this was a marketplace, also wrong. Religious, wrong, wrong, wrong. The only explanation is using scientific instruments, do energy measurements, and then we can realize that these were special energy machines. Now, when you have special material, like in this case, on special power points, like in the case of Sardinia, it seems that with the conical shape, with the conical geometry, they were getting rather powerful energy machines. Not in these times, not really a fraction of what it used to be at the original times, but still we can see the beauty and ingenious work of the ancients. When looking for similar places all over the planet, it is very hard to find any. When it comes to the construction, now beautiful megalithic sites are really in the places like Peru or Mexico or Egypt or Cambodia or Indonesia or some other places like Southern Balkan. But when it comes to the energy properties, probably the one that is coming close is the Great Zimbabwe. Great Zimbabwe, where we have granite circular structures laying on granite bedrock. Now, those structures were also very powerful and almost unexplainable. The height was about 10 to 12 meters. 10 to 12 meters is a little bit higher than this. However, originally, as you can see, the main tower was much more than that. Probably if we add the top, it would take us maybe to 20 or even 25 meters. 25 meters to get this beautiful inclination, you have to be very skilled. Not only the craftsmen, but also engineers, architects, construction engineers also. So it is a beautiful place. This place is alive. Here almost anyone can feel the energies. You come here, it's such a beauty in the stone which becomes alive under special circumstances. And I would say the original builders were experimenting first with rather simple shapes, just one conical shape, one tower, and then they were adding several towers on sides, trying to amplify the energy effects of the main tower. And this is what they were able to do very successfully. So far, the most magnificent Nuragi in Sardinia. The name of the place is Tamuli in Mount Santa Antone. This is a huge complex of stone structures. The archaeologists and historians in Italy have been researching this phenomenon for 120 years. And this is what they came up with. They said 3,600 years back, until 2,800 years back, there was a Nuragic civilization that built Nuragi, the conical stone towers. They go back as 3,600 and not a single year more. However, they do allow proto-Nuragic structures, and they go back for another 200 years, so 3,800 years, and that's it. Unfortunately, I must say that I'm very sad with the findings of Italians. Namely, everything they got so far is wrong. What was the name of those conical stone towers? We don't know. For sure, they were not called Nuragi or plural Nuragi. What was the name of the civilization? Of course, it was not Nuragic civilizations, because it is said that no written documents came to us after thousands of years. What was the purpose? These are the answers that we can hear from Italian archaeologists. Number one, the chiefdom in the big towers, the leaders of community would reside. Again, no proof for that. We do have some archaeological material that's been found hundreds of years later after those Nuragic monuments were built. But what was the original purpose, we don't know. The second answer that's been offered was that it served for the religious purposes. Again, no proof for that. The third one, the marketplace, again, no proof for that, because we don't have elaborate, complex chambers or open marketplaces there. The next thing they're telling us, those huge megalithic towers were adjoined by the villages. And really, we can see a lot circular structures, usually 80 to 120 centimeters in height, with a little bit smaller stones, but still some of them are of the respectable mass, several hundred kilos. It seemed to me that by building those conical megalithic towers, we talk about the civilization which predate 3,600 or 3,800 years, at least for several thousand years. I would say the last window for the megalithic civilization in Europe was 5,000 to 8,000 years back. So this one is for sure either that one or the one before that, which is more than 12,000 years before the end of the last ice age. And really, when we see some of the blocks reaching 3, 5, 8, even 10 tons, and some of those stones are dressed stones, nicely shaped, transported, and lifted to the second, third, fifth row, and so on, obviously it required technology. Those who came later did not have that technology. Now, this place is very characteristic because next to the Nuragi, we can see the huts, the real places where people lived. So instead of using those circular shaped structures, what they did, they were adding extension, making it oval in shape, then adding the roof from the soil in combination with the little plates, little stone plates. So now that makes sense that hundreds, if not thousands of years after the original builders were gone, people used to live there in those very primitive huts. So I would agree with the archaeologists that those locations were used for little primitive villages. However, my disagreement is with the age. It came much later than what we have here. So I would say the purpose of those huge conical structures have nothing to do with the leaders of societies and have nothing to do with the settlements. In the beginning, there were only those towers, thousands upon thousands of them, and they dotted the landscape of the island of Sardinia. Almost not a similar case on the planet, except for the location of South Africa. The country of South Africa, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. We have similar towers, especially in Great Zimbabwe, reaching 15, 20 meters in height. That's exactly what we had here. And they were also conical in shape. They were made from granite, and here we have granite and basalt. In both cases, bedrock is granite, energetically very potent. And those circular shaped structures, they can also be met, especially in South Africa, thousands and thousands of them. And they had nothing to do with people living there, with the cattle or livestock being held there, because there are no openings, no doors, no windows, no roofs. Exactly the same scenario like here in Sardinia. Is it possible that the same civilization built those structures thousands of kilometers apart? It is possible, because we are talking about the granite bedrock. The next thing that Italian archaeologists are trying to convince us is this phenomenon here. Now this is of course an illustration which is based on their speculation. Basically what they are saying, these were like mass graves where dozens or even 100 bodies could be buried. Theoretically it is possible. In the practical life, I would say, again, thousands of years after they were built originally, probably they did serve for that purposes, to bury some of the members of communities, especially those who own this land. But when we see those giants' tomb or tomb of giants, I would say the first phase was the phase of building dolmens. Now dolmens had entirely different purpose in Western Europe, in Siberia, so thousands and thousands of kilometers, dolmens of different sizes and different complexities were built, but they served for very concrete spiritual purposes, not to bury the dead, not for the religious ceremonies like archaeologists imagine today. So that was the first phase, to build dolmens, and this oval-shaped or semi-circular shape was added later. What was the purpose? Due to its perfect orientation to the east and the rising sun, it had to do with the celebration of life, not of the death. So I would say those structures would have astronomical and spiritual purposes. They were places of knowledge. When it comes to the purpose of those conical towers, they were places of energy, the life energy. Our measurements have shown that they were extremely energetically potent. They were more alive than the grass or plants, almost like humans. In some cases, they surpass the level of some of us, or some humans. So they knew how to pick up the location, they knew what was underneath, where the very potent minerals were located, underground waters, maybe even underground cavities. So the whole place was about the knowledge, astronomy, spirituality, in a sense of development of spiritual senses. And finally, those beautiful stelae, the plates, usually 7, 8, 9 tons in mass, showing the false window and also the oval shape. For me, they were really the time windows between two dimensions, between physical and spiritual, between our planet and the universe. And also the very small, almost a false door, at the base. I would say it had something to do with the energy flows. So this is the place to be investigated in a scientific way, not in speculative way, like the Italians have been doing for the last 120 years. So Dr. Sam Osmanagich from Sardinia, very exciting trip indeed so far. Let's see what we're going to find next. Behind me is another popularly called Giant's Tomb in the place Sadamu es Orku, tomb of giant Orke. It's a central South Sardinia. Now, as I've been going from the north to the southern parts, it seems that what's been called the Giant's Tombs, the design and the structures change a little bit, even though the general shape of the semicircular structure remain with the body behind. However, in the one in the northeastern tip of Sardinia, it was very clear that 4 distinctive phases of construction happened. The first one, series of dolmen; the second one, the central stele with the structure on both left and right; and the third and the fourth phase of the fortification, when the purpose changed. Then the Borero Giant's Tomb was different. Instead of individual megaliths on side being placed in an upright fashion, we had 4 rows of relatively smaller stones. And then here it's more monumental. We have at least 6 rows, 4 of them being visible above the ground. And majority of the stones are clearly dressed stones, nicely shaped. So it seems that more giant tombs we see and visit, the more elements to the puzzle has been added. Now, today is November 13th, 2019. The weather is cloudy, visibility is good. So the time is 2:40 p.m. when I have done my measurements. Temperature is about 12 degrees. I measured the concentration of negative ions. Negative ions very beneficial to our bodies. The levels varied from 2,000 to 3,500. Everything about 1,000 is getting the beneficial qualities for our health. 2 to 3,500, clearly it is very good for the physical and mental cleansing. But the positive ions concentration was almost at the same level, from 2,000 to 3,500, which does not leave many free negative ionized charge in the air. The nuclear radiation was at the level of 19 CPM, meaning it is very quiet. So if there was natural radioactivity below us in the ground, now it's been quiet with this structure. Bad electromagnetism, EM smog. I have not recorded it here, so the values are 0, 0. When it comes to the life energy, now this is the major measurements because it has shown me on the other locations that the structure and the individual blocks were almost alike. It is the same scenario here. Namely, on the scale from 0 to 100, where natural ambient grass, soil is between 10 and 20%. Now, on these rocks, inside the corridor, we have 40% level, which is amazing level. And as a matter of fact, on the very top, the biggest block that's covering the corridor is at 45 degrees. Humans start at 50%, here 45%. No poisonous gases, magnetic field in expected level from 42 to 52 nanotesla, on a regular scale from 20 to 70, that's exactly in the middle of the scale. Ultrasound, we don't have any spectacular measurements, it's 19 to 21 kilohertz, no irregular spikes, no strong ultrasound within this frequency. Infrasound is a little bit more interesting because we have periods of no signal and then 23 hertz. No signal 23, no signal 23, which is telling us something about the regularity of this place. So the structure has affected the regularity. However, the frequency of 23 hertz is not the ideal frequency for the meditation and deep relaxation process. Using a new energy vision camera clearly showed me the combination of the light energies along the corridor and the dark red energies on the sides, which can direct me that this structure as a secondary use had the initiation process, which comes to the aspect of the spirituality. Now, as far as the orientation, as you can see here, the central stela has been present in the case of northeastern, northwestern, and central area of Sardinia is missing here. Instead, we have this small opening. As a matter of fact, this is not a false door, but this is a true opening which leads exactly to the corridor. And the orientation of this entrance is exactly to the southeast at 135 degrees. So it tells me that this was not the solstice orientation, but the equinox orientation. So most probably the fall or spring equinox was important for them. Now, inside we have the biggest block of the structure, which is 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter, about 40 centimeters thick, and it gives me 6.2 tons in mass. So now we are talking about the huge megalithic structures. Besides that one, there are several that are between 4 and 5.5 tons. So now we are talking about advanced social organization being capable of designing, transporting, and installing the structure. As you can see, many drift stones, so they spend much more time than on the other structures. For some reason, this was important for them. Having different or slightly different design on different structures also tells us something about the builders. Most probably they were experimenting with different shapes and going back to the first purpose, which was of course not the burial site, but the energy potent site. With the blocks, they were amplifying the energies. It seems that they were experimenting with the different scenarios as far as the central stella, as far as the length of the inner corridor, as far as the horizontal or vertical rows. The results were probably different, but then we need to go back in time when the structure was originally built, the time when our mother planet was much stronger. So the structures like this one would amplify energies in much stronger ways. When it comes to the time of the building, several times I mentioned that the last period of the megalithic structures were in the period between 5 and 8,000 years. Now this is only the last time frame for the megalithic structures. However, in the last 100,000 years, we have had at least 4 or 5 periods of the megalithic structures that still remain intact or damaged or half destroyed all over the planet, from Peru, 55,000, to some others. Now, more and more I'm checking the sites on Sardinia, and when I see how big damage was inflicted to those structures, it seems to me that there is no way that this was a result of systematic action by certain civilizations who would come after the builders. It would be just too big a task for them. Even the ancient Romans, it wouldn't make much sense, because this is just a stone. These are not temples in a sense that you have carvings and you have clearly worshipped the gods. Here we simply have stone structures. So I don't think that on such large scale any civilization would have so much time and energy and financial funds to simply destroy all of them individually. For me, it seems that something like that could be caused only by a global catastrophe. The last global catastrophe was here with the end of the last ice age. So according to the different sources, from 11,500 to 13,800. So I usually use the number of 12,000 years on average. So it seems to me that the last time when the level of the world oceans and seas rose by 80, 100 or 500 meters, causing huge tsunamis reaching more than 2,000 meters in height, might be an explanation why those structures have been damaged so much. For example, here I believe that we did have a beautiful megalithic structures with blocks that would perfectly fit each other, but being exposed to tsunamis and most probably under the water for some period of time could cause that those structures would lose their structural stability, and they are in the shape like they are today. So a few thousand years back it was not much different. So even when this civilization, which is called by Italian archaeologists Nuragi civilization, even if the Nuragic civilization was here, I wouldn't say that it was much different than it is today. The major damage has been done much earlier. Good morning from beautiful Sardinia. We are near the town Paoli Arbarei. Today I have Luigi Muscas and Cristina ready with me. I will ask Luigi to explain us the importance of this place here.
Siamo qui per parlare di questo luogo e vorrebbe sapere che importanza ha questo posto.
Dove siamo proprio noi adesso, e questo lo dicono anche le fonti antiche che mi hanno riportato, che è il primo re di Atlantide. Siamo nella città perduta di Paoli Arbarei e questa è la tomba dove seppellirono il primo re della civiltà di Atlantide.
So this is the place where we are in the lost city of Paoli Arbarei, and this is the place where was buried the first Atlantean king, and as reported also from ancient writings.
We could see the huge flat area, a valley, with a lot of smaller stones. It seems to me that it was a big settlement, but stones have been ground. Is that true?
Abbiamo visto prima tutta la parte sopra dell'altipiano con molte pietre di piccole dimensioni e lui sembra che questa fosse un grande insediamento, ma che queste pietre siano state rotte, è vero?
Beh sì, li hanno anche rotte perché le grandi, il pavimento l'hanno tolto, delle pietre grandi, e quelle le hanno rotte con i cingolati, con le frese, le hanno tutte spaccate.
The big stones that were paving the area, they were taken away, and the other stones were broken with machinery.
So it was a systematic effort to erase this site.
Quindi è stato uno sforzo sistematico per cancellare l'esistenza di questo sito.
Beh, non è stato fatto solo qui, in tutta la Sardegna è stato fatto.
Not only here, in all Sardinia this has been done.
Now, in this direction is west, the sea. With the end of the last ice age, the water level rose dramatically, and tsunamis were flooding everything in front of it. Was this case here?
Qui in quella direzione c'è l'ovest e in un lontano passato c'è stato un diluvio e quindi ci sono stati degli tsunami molto importanti e che possono aver investito tutta l'area della Sardegna. È possibile questo?
No, non solo investì tutta l'area della Sardegna, ma quando distrusse questa civiltà, la distrusse in tutto il pianeta. Per quello che troviamo le piramidi sepolte nel mondo, i Nuragi sepolti nel mondo. Era planetaria, una distruzione planetaria.
This was a planetary destruction. The same thing happened not only in Sardinia but everywhere on the planet. That is why almost all the ancient structures, pyramids and like Nurages here and so on are still under the ground because of this big flood.
So that would take us as far as the Nuragi construction before 12,000 years.
Quindi questo ci porta a pensare che la costruzione dei Nuragi risalga prima dei 12.000 anni fa.
Beh, se noi partiamo, che la storia, le nostre leggende, le nostre, diciamo, tramandate fino a noi, raccontano di 12.000 anni, per costruire tutto questo, tutta questa civiltà in tutto il mondo, quanti anni ci hanno impiegato? 1 milione di anni?
He says that if our history tells us that the flood happened 12,000 years ago, we also have to think how much it took to build all these things, all these monuments, megalithic sites all over the world, maybe 1 million years before.
Let's go back to this particular site. And he was a young man, he was taking care of goats, and what happened one stormy day?
Torniamo al sito dove siamo adesso e raccontaci quello che è successo quando eri un ragazzino e portavi al pascolo gli agnelli e è arrivato un temporale.
Sì, era il 18 febbraio perché mi ricordo tante cose dall'età di 2 anni.
It was 18 of February, di che anno?
È del 1972, avevo 10 anni.
1972, he was 10 years old.
Portavo gli agnellini al pascolo di mio nonno.
Was taking the little sheep
Era una bella giornata.
It was a nice sunny day.
E invece io non portai nessun giubbotto, niente per
I
ripararli.
had nothing to prepare from eventually rain.
Imperversò un grande temporale
And a big storm came.
e cercai il riparo e negli alberi non faceva perché pioveva molto.
He was looking for a shelter because under the trees was not possible. The rain was too strong, so was looking for a shelter.
Così passai proprio di fronte, la tomba era fatta bene bene, qui era così, fatta di pietre bene bene. E c'era un'entrata qui.
This tomb here was in much better condition. It was covered completely by the stones and was very well kept. And there was an entrance.
Entrai dentro e vidi, ma non con stupore, e mi aveva fatto contento.
And he went inside and he was not surprised and not even scared, but he was happy of what he found.
Vedi questa mummia, questo mi confermò tutte le storie che mi raccontavano a casa.
He
I
saw
miei
this
parenti.
mummy and this was a confirmation of all the stories that his family was telling from many times.
Me lo guardai bene bene,
He watched the mummy very well.
passò il temporale,
The thunderstorm finished.
portò gli agnellini da mio nonno a casa
He took back the animals home.
e gli raccontò la storia e lui mi fece montare a cavallo con lui.
And he told the story, he told what he found to his grandfather. And his grandfather took him with him on the horse riding and took him around. Dove ti portò?
Per niente stupito,
It was not, his grandfather was
perché
not,
sapeva tutte le storie lui.
was not surprised because he knew the whole story.
E mi portò in tutti i siti archeologici che c'erano ancora esistenti.
And he took Luigi to all the archaeological sites that were still visible at the time.
Tutto, là sapeva della città perduta, sapeva cosa c'era.
He knew everything. He knew of the lost city. He knew what was underground. He knew everything.
E conosceva anche le altre città sepolte della Sardegna.
And he knew also about the other buried cities in Sardinia.
Was the mummy wrapped?
La mummia era avvolta in
No, non
qualcosa.
c'aveva niente, solo la pelle così e questo colore qui. Perché anche a me mi rimane la pelle così tutto l'anno.
No, was not wrapped in anything. It was the only bare skin.
So there was a skin.
There was a skin, and the
nero,
skin
diciamo.
was the same color of Luigi's
Proprio il
skin,
caffè e latte così.
and little dark. And
So he was playing with one of the hands.
e tu giocavi con
Sì,
la mano della
e
mummia?
noi poi lo dissi ai miei amici. Lo dissi ai miei amici e venivamo solo con lui, gli altri lo guardavano, non gli interessava.
And he came with his friends, you know, but some of them were not interested in
Beh.
this thing. You know, just one of his friends was interested in it.
Invece con l'altro mio amico, con Pietro, venivamo a giocare, a fargli muovere le dita e anche a dormire quando il bestiame era sazio.
And so with Pietro, this friend of his, they would come here and play with the mummy and sleep in the tomb when the animals were had been fed already and they were resting. They were resting inside the tomb with mummy,
E siccome sapevamo che erano i nostri antenati, i nostri padri,
and they knew they were. This was one of their ancestors.
io dormivo a destra, abbracciato così al torace, e Pietro a sinistra.
They were lying down and sleeping, one on the right side of the mummy and one on the other side,
Sembravamo due gattini però.
like two kittens.
Un giorno venne il padre a cercarci
One day, Pietro's father came to search for them
e ci ha trovato addormentati qui.
and found them sleeping.
E poi è rimasto anche lui qui, si è seduto qui
He sat down
proprio
there
lì
and he was waiting for them to wake up.
e ci ha lasciato dormire.
So he left
Contento.
them sleep with the mummy, was very happy about it.
Per noi era diventato un gioco. Poi quando lo presero le autorità, siamo rimasti un mese a piangere, venivamo qui ogni giorno.
When the authority came and took the mummy away, Luigi and Pietro stayed, were coming here every day for a month and they were crying because their friend was not here anymore.
Now, was the mummy in one piece?
Era un pezzo unico la
Sì,
mummia?
sì, pezzo unico. C'aveva
Yes.
la testa qui dove siamo noi e i piedi sotto quella pietra lì.
The head was here and the feet under that stone over there.
So roughly, what was the size of the mummy?
Qual era la dimensione, più o meno la lunghezza?
No, lo misuravamo noi con precisione. 4,24 m, non era molto grande.
4 meters and 24 centimeters. They measured it. with a meter.
Who
And
measured it?
Luigi and Pietro. Luigi, tu e Pietro avete
Sì,
misurato.
sì.
Luigi and Pietro measured
4 meters, 25 centimeters.
24 centimeters.
424.
And but Luigi said also that this was not that big. There were bigger ones.
Yes, he's seen bigger ones.
Ne hai visti di più grandi? quindi?
Sì, ne ho visto più grandi. Però questo era il re più importante.
He saw bigger ones, but this was the most important king.
Besides the mummy, were there some objects around it?
C'erano degli oggetti?
No, quando l'ho visto io era già vuoto, non c'era niente, solo la mummia.
When he saw him, the tomb was only the mummy. No.
Però quando c'aveva la pietra davanti qui, che c'era una fessura così era la fessura, 5 centimetri qui.
Finisce.
La signora, la testimone che ho nel libro, quando il sole stava al tramonto da questa parte, entrava la luce del sole e brillava tutta, era piena di tesori, di gioielli, piena zeppa.
Before he and Pietro before he discovered the mummy, there was the entrance was almost closed. There was a very narrow space, and he has a testimonial from a lady that put this testimony is in his books, that when the sun was setting, it would shine inside this through this opening, and everything was shining inside the tomb because there were a lot of treasures.
How did he get in?
Come sei entrato tu?
No, avevano tolto la pietra qui, l'avevano tolta.
Somebody had taken out the stone at the entrance, so it was
So
easy to
it
enter.
was accessible. All right. Now, using this instrument, which is called experimental life energy meter, I'm able to measure, let's call it the life energy on a scale from 0 to 100. So for example, here we can see that the natural ambient is about 20%. However, when you take the plant, it goes, as you can see, 25. What would you expect from the stone, from the rock? It is dead. It should be even less than that. But, you see, here we have 40%. 40%. Luigi, give me your fingers. Put your fingers here. Just like this. 3 fingers. You see, 80. If I put it here, 95. Cristina? Good. 80. So, the stones are about 40 to 45. That's what you would not expect from the dead material, dead matter. But here we have 40 to 45. It is like those stones are alive.
Le misurazioni che ha eseguito con questo strumento che misura l'energia organica o energia vitale danno generalmente il 20% per le piante, per l'ambiente, il 25% quando si avvicina a una pianta. Abbiamo misurato le nostre e quindi abbiamo visto che variano dall'80%, la tua e la mia, e al 95% quella di Sam. Però ci si aspetta che da un materiale morto, una pietra, non ci si aspetta una energia vitale, e qui c'è una misurazione di energia vitale che è del 40-45%.
And this is what's been happening on all of my measurements of Nuragi and the giant's tombs.
E questo è quello che è successo, è un rilevamento costante in tutte le misurazioni che ha fatto qui in Sardegna, alle tombe dei giganti e in Nuragi. C'è sempre questa pietra viva.
Does he have any explanation on those stones?
Tu puoi dare qualche spiegazione su queste pietre, su perché hanno queste caratteristiche e come sono state fatte?
Queste pietre qui, non tutta, diciamo, era costruita così, ma queste sono di pietre impastate, queste qui, e hanno un'energia particolare che gli hanno anche dato quelle che le ha costruite.
Not all the stones here have the same characteristic, but these particularly have the characteristic to be melted material to form the stone.
E questa
And so
energia,
they have the energy that is being given to the material while it was forming.
e l'energia ce l'hanno tutto quello che hanno costruito, perché non solo è l'energia delle pietre, ma l'energia della terra sotto e del cielo, perché sono collegati al cielo, alle stelle, e hanno una doppia energia.
This is a connection between the earth and the sky, between the planet and the sky. So it's not only the energy contained in the stone, but it's also the energy of the earth and the energy of the sky.
Perché hanno l'energia dell'acqua,
The energy of water.
perché anche in tutti i nuraghi, anche se può essere una montagna come quella, che l'acqua non c'è, e lì c'è l'acqua, e loro costruivano dove c'era anche l'acqua.
The water is the other important element because all the nuraghe are anyway connected with water.
E quello amplificava l'energia con le stelle.
And the water was helping amplifying the energy and the connection with the stars.
So, what I have noticed is that the Nuragi and other structures were built from basalt, granite, sandstone. Here we can see high content of quartz crystal. But being integral part of the structures, it seems that there was an energy flow through the structures. And this is what makes them almost alive. So the structures usually, with its shape and location, amplify the underground energy sources. This is a beautiful menhir behind me. The name of the place is Villa Sant'Antonio. It is in central Sardinia. Now, this is an amazing island of pyramids and dolmens and menhirs and nuragi, conically shaped towers. Whoever is researching megalithic sites, this is the place to be. I have done some measurements and they show me interesting results in this particular area around this menhir. So let's start. Today is November 15th, 2019. The weather is cloudy, windy and a little bit rainy, as we can see right now, but still visibility is very good. The temperature is about 12 degrees Celsius. I measured first negative ions beneficial to our body. The range of negative ions is anywhere between 1200 and 2200. Now these are excellent levels. These are the levels that are usually linked to the pine tree forest at the top of the mountains. As a matter of fact, some mountains have about 1000 negative ions per cubic centimeters. Our contaminated cities about 300 and our homes about 50. So here we have more than 2000. And as far as the positive ions not so beneficial to us, they make us sleepy, it is only between 200 and 500, meaning the negative ionization of this place is very evident, very good for us. Nuclear radiation, as long as we are below 50 ppm, we are fine. Here it's about 2150 in average, very good and calm place, meaning no bad radiations coming from the underground, no technical radiations around us. EM smog 00, which is very good. When it comes to the life energy, special instrument, experimental life meter, is showing me very high values. The values of the surrounding areas, the ambient is about 30 to 40% on the scale from 0 to 100. If we are just somewhere in the grass in the valley, it should be about 10, but here is about 20 to 40, meaning the whole place is still alive. When it comes to the menhir, it's between 40 and 50, so energetically it is alive. some humans start at 55%, so from 55 to 95 usually. So 40 to 55 is amazing level. So it tells me that the ancients knew exactly what kind of stones they are going to be using. Magnetic field is in average values 44 to 52 nanotesla. Ultrasound, most of the time no signal, but when it does show up, it is extremely strong. So something is happening below us. Infrasound 22 to 29 hertz, meaning it's very, very active. It's not calm, it's not quiet, not good for the meditation, but for some activities. Measured also with the new energy vision camera. Most of this menhir, most of the block, light green colors, good, lively, positive colors, except for a few places, the places where it's been damaged, we can see dark, heavy red color. So obviously, in a way, this menhir has been suffering when people try to harm it. According to some accounts, what we had here, we had actually official archaeologists who did not know what to do with this menhir and with this mass. They wanted to destroy it. If that's true, it is very sad for Italian archaeology. And even if some people try to damage it, again, it is sad because this is the cultural heritage from distant past. But in general, new energy vision camera shows that this place is extremely positive in energy. When it comes to the size, we have about 4.50 meters above the ground. 4.50 meters, about 1.1 meter. It gives me 4.90 cubic meters. But when we add what is below ground, at least 1 meter below the ground, it's another 1 cubic meter, so total of 5.90 cubic meters times 2.2 specific weight, it is about 13.1 tons. So more than 13 tons. It's a huge megalith, especially when you know that it has obviously been shaped at one time in the past. It has been moved, transported, and then erected, installed right here. It tells me that it was someone with the advanced social organization, not primitive cavemen, but advanced society. The place has commanding view, 360 degrees. It was a special place, but what we can see today is just the traces of menhir, but around, it seems to me that since it's so energetically charged, there was a whole complex. It should be pavements, the plateau here, most of it has been destroyed, and it seems there was another structure nearby, maybe another conically shaped tower. So it was a place of power for ancients, a place for the communication, because when we touch, when we talk, you can hear the echo of this menhir. So maybe it had to do something with the communication, but also with some energetically charged activities. Amazing place. Sardinia, one more time, is amazing island to see. We are in the middle of Sardinia, Italian island in Mediterranean Sea. When I say in the middle, I mean 40 kilometers to the east and 40 kilometers to the west. There are the seashores. But right now, in the middle of this island, we have one of the greatest surprises. Behind me, we can see this standing stone. In archaeology, they are called menhirs. Menhirs in Breton language means long stone, or megalith. Megalithos in Greek, a big rock. And indeed, we have big rocks here. Somebody brought them and placed them on this particular location. This is not the only place with menhirs. And here, indeed, we have many of them. We can see the rows of menhirs. In Western Europe, back 8,000 years ago, we had at least 250,000 menhirs. Countries that we call today Austria, Switzerland, Poland, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, England, Ireland, they were filled with menhirs, thousands and thousands of them. Today in Western France, in Karnak, 5,000 of them, rows and rows of menhirs. Official, conventional archaeology has no idea what they were used for, who brought them on the places, who designed them, who shaped them, what was their purpose. 250,000 of them until the 12th century. And then the Inquisition, which was formed by the Catholic Church, destroyed 80% of them. 20% remained, but still it is 50,000. Why would somebody destroy those stones, nicely shaped and positioned here? Well, the biggest one was in southern France, and its mass was 175 tons. Let's calculate the mass of this one real quick. It's almost 2 meters. Adding half a meter below the ground, 2.5 meters. 1 meter here, the thickness about half a meter. So it is more than 1 cubic meter, 2.5 ton. Of course, 1 man or 2 men or 10 men cannot move this block. You have to have technology. 2.5 ton. Imagine 175 tons. When the church discovered such a great number of menhirs, they were saying it was no man who could move them and place them there. It was devil's work. So they decided to destroy all of them. And they almost succeeded. But still, 50,000 and dozens of them here on the island of Sardinia are telling us that there was an advanced civilization in distant past, most probably before the end of the last ice age, and make us wonder, are we really the only intelligent form of life on this planet in the last 5 billion years? Megalithic blocks, 40 to 50 tons each, on top of each other. Today, partially preserved. Next to them, Nuragi. Blocks 200 to 500 kilos. And then more megalithic blocks.